Alright, what's poppin'? It's your boy Big Rich, Queens, New York City, where we get busy. Thursday evening business. Ladies and gentlemen, come on in, wipe your feet on the rug, throw some smoke in the atmosphere. Today's show sponsored by Scottie Pippen from the Backpack Boys in LA. Unbelievably exquisite, that's all I can say. Let's get right into business. www.ruckusradiomerch.com for all your mob stories. Merch, get it today, your Disgraciad merch. Business, let's conduct some. Being that tomorrow is October 1st, and the premiere of The Many Saints of Newark, the official Sopranos prequel, drops on HBO Max and movie theaters. So I thought this story from the New York Post, by the way of Michael Kaplan, would be a great little story to tie in everything before tomorrow's premiere. Let's get into it. The Sopranos was inspired by this real-life Newark mob family. In the late 1960s, the Newark, New Jersey mob was in disarray. Its leader, Anthony "Tony Boy" Boiardo, suffered from crippling ulcers. His father, family capo Richie "The Boots" Boiardo, nearly 80, wanted to retire, care for his garden and lounge at his gargantuan pool. But he kept getting pulled back into helping his son, who was disliked by fellow gang members. At least two of them, soldiers Angelo DeCarlo and Anthony Little Pussy Russo, were caught on FBI wiretaps gossiping about the likelihood of Tony Boy getting killed by one of their own. If this setup sounds familiar, that's because the Boiardo crime family inspired the HBO TV series The Sopranos and its new prequel movie, The Many Saints of Newark, which drops in theaters and on HBO Max tomorrow, October 1st. The latter, set in Newark amid the 1960s race riots, tells the story of young Tony Soprano as he began to make his bones. In the film, Tony is portrayed by late James Gandolfini's 22-year-old son, Michael. Sopranos creator David Chase revealed to New Jersey Monthly back in 2002 that while 90% of the TV show is made up, it's patterned after this family. Many names and situations on The Sopranos and in the movies are dead ringers for real Jersey mafiosos. Riffing off Anthony "Tony Boy" Boiardo and Many Saints, Tony Soprano's father is called Johnny Boy. Reality and fiction both feature thugs named Big Pussy. The true genesis of John Big Pussy Russo's nickname, he was a successful cat burglar. And real-life Tony Boy as well as TV's Tony Soprano both suffered due to their devious lives. They were racked by emotional maladies with physical repercussions. Ulcers for Tony Boy, panic attacks for older Tony Soprano, and both hired psychiatrists to cope. While Soprano sessions with Lorraine Bracco's Dr. Melfi are well known to fans, those of Tony Boy, who had witnessed his first murder at 14, are less so. Quote, Tony Boy worked with a therapist who had been a military doctor, specializing in PTSD, said Richard Lynette, author of In the Godfather Garden, The Long Life and Times of Richie the Boot Boiardo, told the Post. Quote, Tony Boy was dealing with stress of being the Boot's son and running a mob family, which he was ill-equipped to do. Like on The Sopranos, when Tony took the reins from Jail Corrado Jr. Soprano, things weren't going well for the Boiardos in the 60s. IRS agents were investigating the Boot, nicknamed for his bootlegging prowess, and feds had begun closing in. DeCarlo was battling cancer while serving a 12-year prison sentence for numbers running. Life magazine ran an expose on the Boot, his brazen empire of organized crime, and 30-acre estate in Livingston, New Jersey, with a home described as Transylvanian traditional. The unwanted publicity led to kids throwing cherry bombs over the fence. Frustrated, the Boot actually took pot shots at two trespassing kids. Weirdly, in the midst of all this, he encouraged his teenage grandchildren to patrol the grounds with long guns. We hunted there and people thought we were bodyguards, grandson Roger Hanos told the Post. We kept the guns close in case we saw rabbits or squirrels. Before their worlds began to crumble, though, the Boiardos ran Newark. For decades, the clan controlled the city's crime scene and benefited from racketeering, loan sharking, theft, gambling, and no-show jobs, along with other criminal enterprises at the port of Newark. It was and is a candy store, law enforcement told the Post. The port is a magnet for criminals. We've highlighted 500 longshoremen getting paid a total of $417 million for work that will never be done. The family's lucrative illicit trade started out innocently, however, with milk. It all began with a pre-capo Richie delivering the wholesome beverage. His family immigrated from Italy to the United States in 1901, and his parents, who adopted the boy they call Ruggiero at age 6, mostly lived on the straight and narrow, but Richie had other plans. Around 1915, having worked in construction and already saddled with a bust for running an illegal gambling joint, Richie, then in his 20s, secured a Newark milk route. In short order, he became more than a milkman. He had contact with households and started selling illegal lottery tickets to the families who also bought his milk. Hanos said it was simply a way to make extra money. Business is what I say. It also solidified his criminal reputation. In 1920, Prohibition hit and Richie took up producing and peddling bootleg alcohol. He learned the business through a gang headed up by John and Frank Mazzocchi. By the early 30s, the Boot assembled his own crew and dealt with the competition in classic mob style. He executed the Mazzocchi brothers, added Hanos, who avoided the family trade and is now retired from his job as director of human resources at a New Jersey university. Then my grandfather became the bootlegging king of Newark. Over the decades, the Boot made millions by being shrewd and murderous. On a wiretap, gang members laughed about the Boot hammering a little Jew in the head before Tony Boy shot him, but he also had seemingly legit contracting businesses that thrived via sweetheart deals from politicians who received kickbacks. When things got messy, the Boot had a way of destroying evidence. You'd hear about him burning people alive or dead. That was weird and scary, said Lynette, referring to what went down in a large fire pit at the rear of the Boot's property. Usually mob guys just put a bullet to the ear. There were not many mob bosses with their own crematorium. That's brutal. However, his son, to the manner born, lacked the Boot's cunning. Tony Boy, after a brief and unsuccessful military stint, got involved in crime in the early 50s by working as a frontman to obtain a liquor license for its dad's restaurant. He quickly worked his way up the ranks as a mobster, but many thugs disliked him. Quote, Tony Boy was raised with a silver spoon in his mouth. He raced around in fancy cars and threatened to kill people, said Lynette. Little Pussy, Jip, and others resented it. According to Lynette's book, an FBI report noted, as soon as Boiardo, the Boot, dies, his son will not have long to live. It didn't help that Tony Boy famously screwed up. In the early 60s, left in charge by an aging Boot, he organized a meeting that turned to mayhem. It began when he called numbers runner Pasquale Smudgy Antonelli to the Fremont Club in Newark for an early morning sit-down. The place was closed and Tony Boy was with Big Pussy and Jimmo Calabrese, a Boiardo lieutenant and prolific killer. Exactly what happened next is shrouded in mystery. But it ended with Tony Boy, Big Pussy, Smudgy, and Calabrese all with bullet wounds needing medical care. Tony Boy was spirited to Florida. An associate of Smudgy was murdered a day later. Needing to clean up the mess, the Boot jetted home from an Italian vacation with his sweetheart. Quote, I would say he was pissed, Lynette said. The innocent bartender who witnessed everything was killed. That was the case of Boot's brutality spilling over into the civilian world. Throughout that decade, the family business got driven into the ground. Little Pussy, an associate named Jerry Katina, and the Boot all landed behind bars on various charges. My grandfather went to prison for a little over a year in November 1970, said Hanos. I felt bad about it. I drove my mother and aunt there to visit him in Leesburg State Prison. I fed his dogs and checked out his house. They let him have his own garden at Leesburg. Tony Boy died of a heart attack in 1978 at age 64. His father passed 6 years later due to a heart failure at 93. By then, the Boiardo crime family was skeletal, but it did not mark the end of Newark's mob. Quote, I fully believe there is an organized Newark mob, said ex-Secret Service agent Jan Gilhooly, allowing that cameras everywhere complicate being a crook. But organized criminals spend 24 hours a day thinking about how to steal things. The port is still heavy in loan sharking and gambling. Plus, you now have street guys that need to be dealt with. According to the law enforcement source, organized crime remains alive and well. The mob had a check cashing place in the Newark area through which they laundered $1 million per day. A container full of perfume got stolen from the port that was worth another $1 million. There was a wiretap bug on which gangsters talked about New Jersey belonging to the Genovese family. On another tap, they jawboned over something more relatable. Guys were arguing over which Sopranos character is based on who, said the source, adding that the guys appreciated the show's realistic portrayal of their backstabbing loved ones. Even family members will try to do you. And again, what do we learn from all this? Stay off the phones. Minkia, stay off the phones. First of all, great little story by Michael Kaplan of the New York Post Tomorrow, October 1st, the prequel to one of the greatest mob shows ever created, The Many Saints of Newark. Who made Tony Soprano? I can't wait. I hope it comes out tonight at midnight or something like that. I'll stay up. Like, comment, share. Let me know what you guys are smoking on. Let me know what city you're smoking in. And we will talk soon. Salute.